Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Hope all is well. It's Chat with Al on Tuesday. Subscriber drive continues, and we just beat the stereo sound with the mute button. How cool is that? You didn't have to hear my voice twice over. How's everything going? In the chat, we already have the original Grognard. Check out that great military strategy channel. If you have not subbed, please do so. We have W Vogs. That's Will from W Vogs. Another fine card collecting channel. We have Sports Time Machine with Mr. Utah Mike. That's another must subscribe. And my Twitter wife, Bobby Cantilano. How are you doing, Bobby? How's the weather in FLA? So, first thing we want to do is, again, when you see the content creators in the chat, if you don't know, you want to go to the Go channel. Then you want to go to their channels. And this is the original Grognard. He just put up a video today. Space Infantry Resurgence Playthrough Part 1. Tabletop Strategy. And check out his wonderful channel. The original Grognard. As Bobby Cantilano says, the weather down in FLA is hot, hot, hot. I'm feeling hot, hot, hot. So, and then this is W Vogs channel right here. Another wonderful channel in our community. So please check this out. Subscribe to all the FOC members. Those are friends of the community. This is Will from W Vogs. Not WKRP in Cincinnati. No, W Vogs. Another great channel here in our FOC community. As we have Red Sox fan in the chat. He says, what's up, dude? Well, you know what's not up? The Red Sox record. That's not what. They lost their home opener today, 7-5. Pitching was pitiful once again. Yeah, we'll talk about that, W Vogs, in a bit. We're having different people come on during Saturdays, so you'll be in the rotation, my friend. You'll be in the rotation. Yeah, Bobby, the Red Sox did not fare thee well today. Pitching staff continues to poop the bed on the mound. As the original Grognard trying to make Devin, that's why he's a good friend, trying to make me happy. He says, you know, it's early, Al. It's early. They stink. I still love them. They stink. Hold on a second. As my new headset loves to shut off. Son of a gun. There we go. All right, we should be back up. My new headset just likes to shut off. Let's make sure we... There we go. Can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me. Yeah, my new headset goes auto shutdown enabled. No, it's not enabled. I thought I shut that crap off. I guess I didn't do it right. When I talk to Red Sox, my headset gets very upset. You know, they're big Red Sox fans, my headset. They're like, don't say anything bad about the Red Sox. Oh, my Lord. Don't say anything bad about the Red Sox. As Red Sox fan says, I was trying to look up myself and stumbled upon this. Unfortunately, I don't have cable right now. Well, they lost. You didn't miss much, my friend. So, thank you for joining us, even though you stumbled across. Feel free to leave if you want. But you're going to miss a lot of friends. Ken Castro and Bubba Husky in the chat. How you doing, my friends? Thank you for being FOC friends. Friends of the community. So we have some more channels we're going to shout out. As we couldn't do them all yesterday, we're going to continue our sub drive to get everyone to 1,000 subscribers and more in the FOC. I put your link to your channel in the chat, W Vogs. A is okay. How's it going, Bubba? Hope you're having a good day. How's it going, Ken? Ken, did you cover the hockey championships yet? For the NCAA women's? I think you already did that, correct? Itinerant hobbyist. That's our good friend Todd. How are you doing? Happy Tuesday. Bubba Husky's at work. Well, we'll try to make your work evening a little more little more fun and enjoyable. And this is our good friend, Itinerant Hobbyist. Great military strategy channel. Devin's partner in crime at times. So this is Todd from Itinerant Hobbyist. Check out this wonderful channel. Link is in the chat. We might have Mr. Utah Mike joining us. And we'll talk a little wrestling. Dave Little, how you doing, my friend? Hope all is well, Dave. There's another must subscribe, and we're going to put his link in the chat. Dave Little, wonderful. He does Action PC Boxing. He's a huge wrestling fan. Dave, he could, just big wrestling fan, Dave Little is. I'd like to get his thoughts on. Did you watch any of WrestleMania, Dave? Mr. Utah Mike says the show went 6 hours. That's insane to me. That is insane, Dave. It's a little too long. This is Dave Little's channel right here. Please check it out and subscribe. Dave says all is good here. John Taylor is in the chat. How you doing, John Taylor? Said, what's up, bro? I'm A-okay. It's a Tuesday. We're getting closer to Friday, which means closer to Saturday. Dave Little says, watched all 8 hours of WrestleMania. No, I'm not wearing my hat. I'm not wearing my hat. Not wearing, because I have my new headset. It's not all duct taped up. We have Dave from Baseball Demos. Another fabulous channel here. So 8 hours. What was the match of the night, Mr. Dave Little? And again, we might have Mr. Utah Mike on in a bit. Hopefully, he can jump on for a little bit, talk a little wrestling with us before we go off air, before we get to my singing finale. Everyone loves when I sing. And this is Baseball Demos channel. That's Dave from Baseball Demos. Remember, this is a drive to 1,000 subscribers for all FOC members. Dave from Baseball Demos. Wonderful channel. Please subscribe if you have not done so. Arnold Hunter, how are you? He says, Al, how would you rate the Legends of Boxing board game? I have never played it. I will have to look it up. I love Glory Days Boxing. I know you were in Anthony's chat. You had asked the question. I saw that afterwards. I played the original title bout game. I like it. I just hate card flipping. And anyone who's watched my channel knows I can't stand card flipping. Mr. Utah Mike, I sent you a link in Discord, in the Discord private chat. Mr. Utah Mike. All right, buddy. As Bobby Cantilano saying, hello, Arnold. And she says, I'm sub to everyone here. John Taylor says, the first Fight Night boxing game was the greatest, where you had to punch with the stick. Oh, I remember that, John. Yeah. I like the, the Fight Night. Was that the first one or the second one? Yeah, that was a good game. I like when you could create your own fighters, too. That was fun. You could actually try to adjust their ratings. You could create all kinds of fighters. So that was a fun game. They haven't made a Fight Night in a while. John says it was a first. Okay. There was another game you did with you had the joysticks, the controller, but you worked the, no, you know what? Yeah. You moved with the controllers, but you punched with the buttons, I think. And then they made it where you punched with the thumbsticks afterwards, which was a little more difficult for me. Yeah, John Taylor says, but man, I hurt my hands on that one. Oh, yeah, that was, you're getting a browser issue through Discord. Okay. All righty. So you can't get on Discord, Mr. Utah Mike? Hold on un momento, por favor. Will from W Vog says, going to a card show on Saturday. When are you going to continue Ben-Hur with Dog? That's down the line, Will. That's down the line. That's when Dog gets his stuff up and running again. Dave from Baseball Demo says, Tabby says hello. That's his beautiful cat. What a fun. she likes to get camera attention, Tabby. It's fun. Baseball Demos, as I stated, great channel. We also have Danny N. Gray's Cards and Toys. He had a great video up, I think it was the other day. He took his son toy shopping, and that was very enjoyable. I used to love going toy shopping with my nephews or nieces. And when I was a kid, that was the best place in the world to be, at the toy shop. Still is in a way. Remember to check out Danny N. Gray's Cards and Toys. And if you don't know the link to his channel, you just click on the 3 dots like I'm doing, folks, and you put the link in. And we're going to have some shout outs, which means I'm putting links in the chat to some people. There's so many people, we have to get to 1,000. Please subscribe to everyone. And if someone is kind enough to subscribe to you, subscribe back. That is what you do in the FOC, friends of the community. Red Sox fan says, my phone died. Hi, everybody. Well, we're glad you're back. So how come your cable's out, my friend? And you're not missing much with the Red Sox. Believe me, they're pitching. They should have took spring training slightly more seriously. You know, they should have took spring training much more seriously than they did. Okay. We're going to get Mr. Utah Mike on in a bit. How was everyone's Tuesday? Was it good? I hope everyone's Tuesday was good. We're getting closer to the weekend, unless you work the weekend and this is your weekend. That happens sometimes, you know. Tom Usher, how you doing? He says, hey, Al, what's the learning curve for Action PC Golf? Very easy game. Very easy game. It's that one. It's very forgiving. It's a fun game. Oh, Warren Chandler, how you doing? Another great friend from the channel. The learning curve, Tom. With all Action PC games or any games, such as a stat type of game, there is a learning curve, but it's not bad at all. If you get it, my suggestion, just play it through a couple of times. Have you played any of the Oh my God, not again with the auto shutdown. Hold on a second, folks. I don't know why my headset always wants to auto shutdown. Ay, ay, ay. Every time I talk about the Red Sox, my headset's like, stop talking about the Red Sox. So, yeah, the Action PC games are great. I love them. We did a show I was lucky enough to be on with Ron Juckett and Dave Gardner talking about the Action PC. Tom Usher says, I love Action PC, baseball, and hockey. Great games, fun games. The golf is the golf. I have it. I'm not going to get the new one. I think I'll wait a little bit. I'll see. I want to see what it looks like. I think Dave Gardner's picking it up, so I might miss out on the sale, but they'll have another sale. So, and so how are you, Tom? Todd B's in the chat. So many live chats. I need a YouTube guide. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. John Taylor says, I still play Madden every year. I used to play Madden, but I like the Stratomatic stuff better. Madden, it got a little silly with some of their ratings. It's a fun game. When they took all the classic teams out, that's when I stopped buying Madden, because I used to like to play all the old classic teams and set them up with the proper numbers and everything. And we'll have Mr. Utah Mike shortly, and we'll talk some wrestling with Mr. Utah Mike. Remember, check out Sports Time Machine with Mr. Utah Mike. Hopefully, my mic is still on and you guys can hear me, and it didn't auto shut down, because it loves to auto shut down. No, they can still hear me. That's awesome sauce. And we will be sending an invitation to Mr. Utah Mike. Hopefully we can talk some wrestling with you, Mr. Utah Mike. And I'd love to get Dave Gardner on and Dave Little on. They're big wrestling fans also at some point in time. I always loved wrestling when I was a kid. Back to the chat. What's your favorite team, John Taylor, when it comes to Madden? As Todd B says, wrestling. Oh, the Nation of Doom. I kind of remember them. My favorite wrestler was Ric Flair. Always had great matches. Warren Chandler says, what happened to the PlayStation headset with the 3 feet of duct tape around it? I love that headset. I still have it. We'll break it out. I just got my brand new headset, though. Yeah. No. Hey, that's, that was the headset I learned not to toss on the bed. Don't throw the headset. As I did that slow motion dive, like, no, and it hit the bed. And I had that exactly just under 2 weeks when I broke it. And duct tape cures all, folks. Duct tape cures everything. My riding lawnmower lived for 15 years because of duct tape. I duct taped the crap out of that thing. Nation of Domination when Rock was a heel. I like when Rock became indifferent where he wrestled anybody. And I think we have Mr. Utah Mike joining us. I hear something. I hear something.
And Jerry Mathers as the Beaver.
And Jerry Mathers as the Beaver. How are you, my friend Mike?
I'm doing excellent now. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining me. That's really cool. As they're asking me, where's my duct taped headset? I still have it. I'm not getting rid of it. It works. I like it. So, well, you get yourself situated there, Mike. And when you're ready, you just tell me. And then we'll talk about your channel a bit and maybe a little wrestling because you watched WrestleMania.
I did, yes. And I survived it.
You survived WrestleMania. That's awesome.
Yes, I did.
What was your and Dave Little watched the whole thing too. It'd be cool if we could actually get Dave Little on. I don't know if he's set up. It's kind of late, but what was the match you were most excited for, and did it meet your expectations, and what was the match that just didn't meet your expectations? So before we go to that, I'm sorry, introduce yourself, Mr. Utah Mike, and tell us about your channel, and I'm going to put your link back in the chat. I did it earlier, but we're going to do that again while you introduce yourself to the esteemed people we have in our chat.
Hello, esteemed people. My name is Mike, and I'm Sports Time Machine. I used to go by Mr. Utah Mike, but to me that was a boring name, so I needed something to catch people's attention. That's why I decided to go with that name. And so I do a lot of retro replays on there. Doing mostly Stratomatic. Started doing some Action PC, but still trying to learn it. That game does have a learning curve, but that's a whole nother conversation, whole nother time, I guess. But I'm still trying to learn it. But I am going to be doing some different. I am doing my tournament right now, but it's been a little slow right now doing that. I am going to be trying something a little different. I was thinking at work last night. I'm going to be taking 2 pitchers, both from Louisiana. Actually, one guy's hero. One guy I used to look up to when he was a kid. So it's actually
Ron Guidry.
And who's the other guy?
Andy Pettit.
Exactly.
Oh, you're going to pit them against each other?
No, I'm going to take Guidry and put him on the 90 Yankee teams and see if he can do it. And see if he can basically take Guidry's 1977 teams to 1986 and replace them and put him on the 1995 Yankees to 2007 Yankees.
That's a cool concept. Are you doing that in Strat?
I think I'm going to do that in Strat, yeah.
Cool. That's pretty cool. Let me just go to the chat real quick for a second, Mr. Utah Mike. All right, let's see what we have here. Red Sox fan says, what was it like being a Red Sox fan when you were a kid, Al? Lots of disappointment. Mr. Mike is a Yankee fan, so he had a lot of joy when he was young. As a kid, as a Red Sox fan, I loved them tremendously, and they would break your heart constantly. I mean, we went 78 was heart. I watched that game. I say this on my chat with Al's every once in a while. I watched that game, no lie, twice a year, the 78 playoff game, just to be disappointed all over again. But I wouldn't trade my sports rooting at all. Like, the Red Sox are off to a horrible start. Who knows? They could stink. They could finish in last place this year. But I always love the Red Sox. Sometimes I don't like some of the players on their team, but I always love the Red Sox. And I think that's with a lot of teams. But you know, I love the memories as a kid were fun, but always disappointing. Yeah, great question. What were your memories as a kid? I don't know how old you are. So, I mean, 78 was crushing. 86, well, I don't really like to talk about that. One strike away 3 times from a World Series victory.
I guess you weren't old enough to remember 75 either.
75, I remember. Very young, but I remember 75. Just like I kind of remember the 76 Patriots. I remember the roughing the passer call and what went on there, because I remember my dad and my mom and my brother, you know, being upset that was a horrible call. So, and I've watched it over and over again. So, let me go to the chat here. Lots of good stuff in the chat. Remember, check out all the content creators in the chat. Please subscribe. Again, this is a subscriber drive for the FOC Friends of the Community. Let's get everybody to sub one another and share with one another and spread the word to other people who might not know about these channels. And in a little bit, after we talk a little wrestling with Mr. Utah Mike, there's going to be some other channels we're going to put in that I missed. I mean, we're going to do this all week, so I'm going to try and get as many channels as possible. And we're just going to riff off what the chat's saying. So let me go to the chat before we go back to our good friend Mike. Warren Chandler says, this is an interesting concept indeed. I'd love to have Dan Marino of the 85 in Miami next season. That's pretty cool. So what Warren Chandler would say would take Dan Marino and put him on one of the recent Dolphins teams. That's an interesting concept. That's always fun to do, Mike. I like stuff like that.
I like that. So I kind of like your what you do also. I think you do something similar in one of your replays too. So
I like doing stuff like that. I've not done that though. I've been thinking about it. I've seen other people say like they put Ted Williams on the Red Sox, you know, on certain Red Sox teams. That's kind of fun. Or whatever team you root for. I mean, the closest thing I did, I made my Italian American Red Sox team, which is kind of fun. They can bash the bejesus out of the ball. Pitching's average, but they're fun to. I don't play them much online, but they're fun to play. My other thing I wanted to do, and I think you've done it, Mike. You've made teams of players. Well, I'm going to do it with players who are born in a specific state. Like, say, if you were born in Massachusetts, you would play for the Massachusetts Minutemen. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, exactly.
Yeah, and like if you were born in Ohio, you play for the Ohio Buckeyes. You know, whatever the. So that's a fun thing I've been thinking about. Let's go back to the chat here. Red Sox fan says, same here. I'm 31 next week. Happy birthday. Many happy, healthy ones to come. But I was in high school in 2004 after a terrible breakup. Well, at least they won the World Series, right? High school breakups are the worst. But anyway, you're over that now. We're all adults.
I'll go ahead and answer Danny. I was just I have my phone pulled up on the chat. I'll go ahead and answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll go ahead and answer Danny and Gray's question about what do you think of the Lars Sullivan finally showing up on Raw and SmackDown. He just as a little bit of a backstory on him. I guess he was supposed to have been up a while ago, but he actually has bad. If you see this monster, he's like a 6'5", 6'6" dude. He actually couldn't perform for WWE because he was having anxiety issues.
Wow.
And he had a hard time performing in public and everything else. They pulled him off the road to try to get him under control and everything else. And, you know, like his name says, he is a freak of nature. Is he going to be any good? Well, I am been like you, Al. I grew up watching wrestling, and I used to watch wrestling, not these bejesus monsters that are now appearing, who are seen to be eating Hulk's vitamins every day.
Yeah. So could they do again? Because one of the most fascinating buildups in wrestling to me. Again, I haven't watched much recent wrestling. That's why I have Mr. Utah Mike on. He's my friend. And I'd love to have Dave Little. Are you able to come on right now? If not, that's fine. We can do another time. Remember the buildup, how they built up Goldberg in WCW?
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're past the point with that of this Lars Anderson, but that was a pretty interesting way to build up a wrestling character, I thought, the Goldberg where you just annihilated people, and you kind of looked forward to it, you know. Because
Well,
remember they had.
it
Oh, go
was
ahead.
it was yeah, it was the whole streak thing, and
Yes.
where pro wrestling didn't have the, you don't have the, well, he's 7 wins and 2 losses. Well, Goldberg was like 250-0.
Yeah,
And stuff like that.
before he lost. And I thought that was whoever wrote that script. I thought, or if Goldberg helped come up with that, I thought, and whoever signed off on that, I thought that was brilliant, because you're right, wrestling was not known for that. You know, wrestling, you didn't have it. So I thought that was a great concept.
I didn't like the idea of who ended the streak. I think that was a bit of a.
Refresh my memory, Mike. I'm trying to.
I believe, if I'm right, I believe it was Kevin Nash who had some control of the booking back then. And I
think you're right.
And I hate when people have control of the booking committee to make decisions like that, basically to end someone's, streak like that.
Kevin Nash, to me, was a star, but not a mega star, in my opinion. I mean, he was a big star in the WCW and stuff. I don't know if you heard me earlier, and I think you've said this before. I think someone asked you who your favorite wrestler was, and I believe it's my favorite wrestler, Ric Flair.
Yeah, I grew up watching either WWF. Like, it seemed like we both watched the same channels growing up, which is kind of weird if you're in Massachusetts. But I usually remember watching, Championship Wrestling on Channel 9, and with Vince McMahon, either sometimes at midnight it was, or Saturday afternoons. And then so I used to watch WWF then, and then when we got the TBS, I started watching the NWA and watching Flair. Yeah,
and it's funny because when I was young, I'd go to my dad's barbershop, and he had all these wrestling magazines that would get mailed there for his the clientele to read. And I was like, who are these guys, and who are those guys? Because I only saw the WWF stuff until certain channels came in this area. And Ric Flair, I have to say, he had the most entertaining matches. Just the stuff he did and the shtick he pulled, his matches were always entertaining. To be the man, to beat the man, and woo! Everyone knows the woo! It's just, Hulk Hogan matches, as much as he was entertaining at a point, were pretty much one-dimensional, wouldn't you say? It was kind of the same stuff over and over again, but it was fun. It was fun to watch.
It was the same 12 minutes every night. You could time him almost, and his matches, we done the same thing, the same ending, same moves, and bada bing, bada boom, it was done. So,
and Red Sox fan, we have a polite chat. I know you're joking around, but he's a big Tom Brady fan, as I am. But it's all good-natured fun, everybody. That's what we have here. Remember that. So, the corny leg drop, John Taylor, and the big boot. Again, it was entertaining. When he beat I'll tell you what, when he beat the Iron Sheik at Madison Square Garden, that was unbelievable, that match. Just the atmosphere. And that's what wrestling was about, atmosphere. How could you make the atmosphere? But Ric Flair matches, Ric Flair and so many. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, I remember matches with them. I'm pretty sure it's Ricky the Dragon. Ric Flair and Sting. Ric Flair, Lex Luger. Just so many. You can go on and on and on. And even when Ric Flair finally wrestled Hulk Hogan, which I think was a Saturday night special, when they used to do the Saturday night shows once a month in the summer, I think the first time they wrestled was a Saturday night special. And it was like, you're right, it was about a 12-minute match if it was that. But Flair was the one who did all the entertaining stuff. Remember how Flair would get hit and he'd do that flip over the rope and walk like on the ring, and then the guy would clobber him. He'd go off on the to the ringside apron.
But the funny thing is, we look at him when Flair was a baby face or a good guy, he would do that same flip and hit the move off the bad guy. But if he was a bad guy, that's when he usually took the fall or took the bump.
When was he? I don't remember him I remember him as an indifferent, meaning he became like what The Rock became, where he'd wrestle anybody. You're right. I guess Flair did become sort of a baby face. When I always saw the Four Horsemen that was a great shtick. The Four Horsemen, him, the Anderson brothers, and Tully Blanchard, I believe, then one of the Anderson brothers flipped on them, and I forgot who they brought in, but That was
That's probably when they brought in Luger. Probably.
That's right. They did bring in Lex Luger. Luger was another one of those. I mean, he had the same. He had some good matches, but I think to me, Ric Flair was one of the most entertaining wrestlers. Along with, I'm going to go old school. You know this one, Mike. Mil Mascaras. Remember Mil Mascaras?
Mm-hmm.
That's the first lucha libre or luchador that I saw, because he'd come in every once in a while. I'd be in WWF, what's now WWE, because they got sued because I guess there was a WWF before them, some Wildlife Foundation or some crap like that. So.
Dave Little says Barry Windham was the replacement for Ole Anderson.
Barry Windham? Okay, I remember that.
Yeah. Now,
Barry Windham, he tagged with Mike Rotundo for a while too.
They did as, I guess, the American Express, I guess, in WWF. Yeah.
And then Dave Little says Luger came on later. All right, let me go back to the chat real quick. Danny N. Gray's Cards and Toys says Kurt Hawkins finally broke the losing streak, 269 losses, and now tag team champions. Can you, either Danny or Mr. Utah Mike, can you tell me a little bit about Kurt Hawkins, as I'm unfamiliar with that name?
He's one of their, he's kind of one of the developmental guys, but he was this guy who used to come in and wrestle and always lose. He had the reverse Goldberg streak going.
So he was like Johnny Rods in a way.
Hey, don't make fun of Johnny. Like I told you, I did an interview once with Johnny.
I know, I like Johnny Rods. I'm just saying, when I watched, they usually lost. Johnny Rods, S.D. Jones, they were past their.
There you go. Yeah. Or Frankie Williams to me.
Oh yeah, Frankie Williams. I remember. Remember when he was on Piper Pit?
And Piper
that was. He hit him with it. That was pretty funny. I was trying to think of him the other day. Okay, so that's one of those types. That's kind of a cool little shtick there that they pulled there. A little reverse Goldberg. That can be good. They kind of.
I'm on. What's up? Hang on one second now.
Yeah, okay? No problem. So Dave Little says Frank Williams was from Columbus, Ohio.
In the morning. I got a doctor's appointment. Okay, what time? I want to get up to.
Then let me just hold on. Un momento, por favor.
Not peeing. My prostate's swelled up. I got to go in and see what's going on to make sure it gets straightened out.
All right. We don't need to hear that conversation between Mike and whoever he's talking to. So, all right, Mike, you all set? I just muted you so that conversation couldn't be heard. Hold on a second, Mike. Oh, come on. Why won't it come back? Okay. You're back on, Mike.
All right. I apologize, guys.
No. I just wanted. So hope all is well there, Mike. Let's see what we did here. Oh, Dave Little says he can come on the chat. Excellent. We're going to get Dave Little on. We're going to talk. This is going to be a little wrestling chat. And again, subscriber drive. Please check out everyone in the channel who are subscribers. Sub to them. They'll sub back to you. So, Mr. Utah Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you for a moment. And just tell us about your thoughts on WrestleMania. We're going to have Dave Little join us for a bit. We're going to have a wrestling chat. This is fun.
Oh, WrestleMania. Where do I start? Where do I vent? Where do I vent?
Yeah, do your venting first, or however you want to do it, my friend.
I'm very happy where I'm not just living on the East Coast anymore, with the ending time being 12:30 Eastern time.
Can I ask you one quick question, Mike? When I used to watch WrestleManias, they were about 3 hours. When you told me it was 6 hours when I asked you, I was like, what? So
well, I got to my buddy's place about after 4 o'clock. They went on live on a pregame show at 3, which was 5 Eastern time, and they didn't go off air until about 12:30 Eastern time.
That's nuts.
And that was 2 hours of pregame, and then the live show went on from 5 till about 10:30 or 12. So it was at least a 5.5 hour show.
That
the
is
actual
crazy.
show. Why they can do that now? Why they're able to do that now, and why they don't have to be 3 hour shows anymore? Is Vince owns the network. We don't have to pay $60-$70 for a high definition WrestleMania anymore. It's now $9.99 for the network, and you
Right.
can watch all the stuff on there. But since Vince owns the network, he can let the pay-per-views run as long as he wants and not run into any problems with the
Hold on one second, Mr. Utah Mike. Dave, I put the link in the chat, so click on that, my friend, because I'm going to get rid of it in a second, Dave. And then if not, I'll put it in. You jump on Discord and I'll put it in Messenger. All right. All right. I'm going to remove the link now, Dave. Hopefully you clicked on it. If not, I'm going to send it through Discord to you. All right. Continue, Mr. Utah Mike. Thank you very much. Sorry about that, my friend.
No, and yeah, and that's why you're saying, wow, it lasted that long. Well, that's how they can do that, and since they own the network, they can basically let a pay-per-view run as long as they want and not feel any remorse from it. So I was listening to a lot of reviews of the shows, and a lot of people were having problems Ubering out of MetLife. They're having a lot of problems getting public transportation. The New York Port Authority trying to get out of there late at night. I think they ran out of transportation coming home. So a lot of people either got stranded or worse out there, which, I don't know if they had what the official crowd was, but they announced over 80,000. So
that's just insane. Well, thank you for those kind words, Red Sox fan, and God bless you too. If you're leaving, thanks for stopping by, and please check out that channel, Red Sox fan. Also check out John Taylor. So Dave Little should be joining us shortly. Dave, I sent it to you in Discord, the link. Yeah, that just seemed insane to me, that long. How many, I guess people would sit and watch that for that long if you're into it, but that just, there must have been a lot of filler bouts that were basically, well, it's wrestling. You can still put on, I would think, a great 6-hour show, but to me, that's overkill. What are your thoughts? I think you think it's overkill.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. To me, the word called help me here with the words, the crescendo, the crescendo. The crescendo to me of the whole show was when Kofi Kingston won the World Wrestling Federation Championship from Daniel Bryan that night. Because if you look at what was left on the card and what happened, the crowd went flat. It went.
That wasn't the main event?
No, the main event were the girls. The girls went on last for the first time in history. The girls went on last.
I would have had that as a co-feature. I think that's what I would have done.
A lot of people were pissed. I guess you were talking about it or heard about it. The reason why that attacker went after Bret Hart at the Hall of Fame ceremony, he was actually upset that the girls were put on last as the main event. That's
crazy though, to attack Bret Hart over that. But
he did, and the problem is the entire WWE universe attacked him. They beat the living snot out of him once he got in the ring. Yeah, he got what he deserved. No one should ever go on a field or anything like that. Joining us is Mr. Dave Little. How are you, my friend? Thank you for joining us. Hope all is well.
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome.
Hey,
good
Dave.
to be here.
We're going to talk a little wrestling because I know you're a huge wrestling fan.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a little wrestling gaming too. And then Dave, I want you to tell us about your channel when you're all set. So you just tell me when you're all set. And I'm going to hit your link again in the chat. I've already done it once, but we're going to do it again. I think it's just going to get there. Yeah, I was just going to say that's better, Dave. We couldn't see your handsome face, my friend. So hope all is well.
Yeah, all is well. I drove from Wisconsin down to Ohio, where my wrestling buddies are, to watch WrestleMania. So hung out with my old pals down there, and like Mike, I got there for the pregame and watched the whole thing until 12:30 Eastern time, and got a few hours sleep and drove back to Wisconsin last night and back to work today.
Wow.
WrestleMania is a holiday.
I would have to say yes. But that I was because I asked Mike here. I remember it like a 3-hour show. Then he explained to me why they can do it, because now it's on Vince McMahon's channel. It's basically he was running the pay-per-view, which is cool. I just think that's a lot of overkill. 6 hours is a bit too much.
It was a bit much, especially with a lot of the filler skits and sketches and things that they just didn't really need. Every match was really pretty good.
Oh, that's good.
But this bit with Elias and John Cena went on for 15, 20 minutes, and it meant nothing. And, of course, Triple H's entrance has to be 15 minutes long. And a lot of filler that they could have gotten rid of. But I wouldn't say, in my mind, that there was a bad match on the show.
So you liked every match, which again, with wrestling, It's unlike boxing. You can put on, your best performers, and you should have a good show. There should never, I'm going to be honest with you, there should never be a bad wrestling pay-per-view, because you can put on what you need to put on to entertain the people. Whereas in boxing, again, there's a difference. I know the difference. The fighters who are going on those cards are promoter fighters. And if they're going on those cards, a lot of times they want certain people to win. They're going to put them against certain people. And, so I'm sure you could put on it's just so long. And then when Mike just tells me, again, I haven't watched wrestling in a long time. I'm trying to get back into it because I see the love you guys have for it. I'm getting my juices flowing again through the wrestling games and through you guys talking about it. I would have went the women. Just with what I've been told now, I went with the women's bout as the co-main event, and then the heavyweight championship should be the main event. That's my opinion. I don't know. I know the women are pop. I watched. It's Rousey, right? She's in wrestling now.
Yes.
I watched one of her matches. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't find her intriguing as a wrestler at all. That's just me. I just think she's not intriguing at all. I'm sure there's many people who say, Al, you don't know what you're talking about. I did watch one match. There was a match, not so much a match, but she came in the ring, I think a couple of weeks ago, to jaw with the other woman, and then they got into a little scuffle. I was like, the other woman was more entertaining, to be honest with you. So,
yeah, the women had the hottest storyline and the most compelling drama, and they had built that up for months. And of course, Ronda Rousey brings a certain, pop culture element to the WWE that Vince loves, and it, sells tickets at WrestleMania, and so they got to have their pop culture connection. But irrespective of the fact that there's equal opportunity and women's rights and all this business, it didn't matter this year because that was the best match on the show and the best storyline and the best build-up.
So that was the best storyline. Okay, that's fine. I just again, without me following, I'm just taking my common sense of without following. That makes sense to me. That's fine. In the chat, Danny says WrestleMania is in Tampa Bay next year. Your thoughts, Mike and Dave, that it's going to be in Tampa. And also, Danny says the only bad match, I think he says in his opinion, Samoa Joe and Mysterio, 60 seconds in my opinion.
Yeah, they had to cut Joe and Mysterio short just because they were running out of time. So
they called that match. What would have been, because you guys are wrestling fans and we have wrestling fans in the chat, what's the ideal, what matches would you have taken out of WrestleMania to cut it down to a more reasonable amount of time? When did they start it, first of all? East Coast time.
The pregame started at 5 East Coast time, and the main show started at 7.
Wow, that's a long day. So,
jump in, Mike. What do you think, Mike? What would you have cut?
Like I was telling Al earlier, to me, the crescendo of the whole show was the Kofi Kingston win over Daniel Bryan, because you had the biggest pop of the night that night, and the place went absolute nuts. And then it fell flat after that. Any match after that just had a hard time. Even the main event, I worked nights, and I was having a hard time from lack of sleep deprivation trying to stay awake for that last match. And it was okay. They came in with the best overall storyline of the whole show. And it seems like they came in at midnight and they're like, all right, now go. It's like, okay. They didn't seem like they were going on all cylinders. Like the angles brought up. Like last week's Raw was so good. I was looking forward to that match so much, and it fell flat. To me, I didn't think it was great, but I didn't think it was could have been a lot better.
So the bout prior to the main event was the one that gave you all the oomph.
Yeah, no, and that was like 5 or 6 matches ago, Al. I mean,
Wow.
So
Wow.
like I said, it was to me that was a crescendo of the night, and then they had the Batista Triple H match, which was okay, but it was
how old is Triple H now? I mean,
50.
Yeah. So to me, again, I haven't watched him in a while. Ric Flair, until he retired, was always entertaining to me. Okay, no matter what he did, he entertained me. Would you say Triple H is the same way?
Certainly not at the level of Ric Flair. I mean, Triple H was very solid performer in the ring, very solid character, but worked his way up politically.
Yeah.
To advance much further than his in-ring abilities would have taken him.
Because again, I've already said the most entertaining wrestler that I've seen. I mean, there are a lot. I liked Rowdy Piper and stuff like that, but Ric Flair always entertained me. Just like Rowdy Piper, now that I think about it. And we have Rob Explanation Point in the chat. Check out that wonderful channel. Please subscribe to it. I'm going to put his link in the chat, and I'll turn it over to Mike and Dave while I do that. So just continue to speak about what you'd like about WrestleMania or whatever, wrestling games or anything like that.
I'll honestly tell you I guess the whole weekend was built around the WrestleCon. Basically, the New York metropolitan area had a huge weekend of shows, and because they had Ring of Honor / G1 New Japan were in Madison Square Garden for the first time. The first ever show to invade the Garden since Vince McMahon's had a vice grip of it. That was the intriguing storyline for the weekend. But to me, the best match of the whole weekend. I mean, if you watched my stream, I 3-2 on my picks. But the match I said would absolutely steal the show, and would go down as probably one of the matches of the year was Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole. And for the NXT Takeover show, that went 2 out of 3 falls, and it was one of WWE's finest matches you'll ever see. To be honest, if you wanna watch a show and it was just amazing, and nothing on Mania touched that.
Couple of quick things in the chat that you guys can speak about. I'll read out. Rob Explanation Point again. Check out that channel. Put the link below. Says WWE writers are the worst. The ratings are flopping. That's one thing. That's from Rob Explanation Point. And then also from Danny N. Gray's Cards. He says, what are your thoughts on AEW, Dave and Mike? So take the Rob question first about what do you think about the way WWE is going with the writers. He says it's bad. That's Rob's opinion.
Yeah, the writing's very inconsistent. They're doing some good things with the women's division. Like I mentioned, that's the hottest thing going right now. And Becky Lynch has been on fire for the last 6 to 9 months. And from what I heard, from what my buddy told me, is that Paul Heyman is booking the women's division. Oh my goodness!
My friend of mine got me an autograph of her. She was here in town, and I missed a signing, but heard she was damn cool with all the fans and stuff. So
that's the way it should be. So Dave, you're saying the writing's inconsistent. That's what you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the guys who excel, and the guys and gals who excel, are the guys and gals who can rise above the writing and
ad-lib with their shtick.
Yeah. And play their shtick. And Kofi Kingston and the New Day are the case in point, because that is one of the worst gimmicks I've ever seen. And all 3 of those guys just took it and ran with it. And they nailed it, and they put themselves over at a level of popularity I don't think anybody on the creative team ever expected. And now Kofi's world heavyweight champion, and I give him all the credit in the world.
So then I got a question from Mike Webb, but let's go to now. Hopefully we answered your question. Oh, Mike, what's your thoughts? I'm sorry on the writing for the WWE. Rob says it's horrible. Rob Explanation Point. Our good friend Rob Explanation Point.
I don't. Well, put it this way: I usually just watch the pay-per-views. I don't, because my schedule. I try not to watch the weekly shows. I was hoping the shows would get better, maybe after the reset after WrestleMania. And now it's like, yeah, it's still. It seems like they take another step backwards, and we have to watch this over again. So what I'm hoping on is waiting on is some of their new talent that comes up from their NXT developmental brand. And hopefully, kind of lights a fire underneath them.
Okay.
Like I'm waiting to see the Matthew Riddles come up. I'm waiting to see the Keith Lees come up, and I'm waiting. And another guy who was just debuted on American TV this past Friday night was Walter, and I love this guy. He's the Aussie anomaly. Again, he wrestles for the WWE.
What's his style?
Oh, hard! He is almost. He reminds me of a young Vader. He's
okay. So he's a power guy.
He's a power guy, but he's known as the Ring General.
Ring General.
Yeah, General. Yeah, he's an unbelievable. He looks. I like his shtick. So he's really
excellent.
Yeah, great big German kid.
Okay. Oh, that could be good. That's good shtick right there. Then if you have it. So again, it looks like we're in agreement with what Rob said. The writing's not so good. When we go, okay. So thank you guys for that. Now, the next, Danny N. Grays had asked, what are your thoughts on AEW? Before you go to that, let me get this other question out because I'm going to forget. Mike, why? Thank you very much for joining us. He asked, now I lost the question. Oh, does anyone know if Ronda Rousey does anything TTM? I don't know what that means. I don't know if he's making a joke and it went over my head.
I don't know what TTM stands for either.
So
unless it stands for broke my hand, I don't know what that means either. They said she broke her hand during the main event, and I did not even notice it. So
we also have Robbie Wartburg in the chat. Please check out that channel and subscribe. I'm going to put his link in the chat below. Again, it's Subscriber Drive. We're talking wrestling though. And please subscribe to all the wonderful content creators such as Robbie and Mr. Utah Sports Time Machine and Dave Little and so on and so forth. That's what we're going to get everyone to 1,000 or as close as we can, and then we'll get them to 1,000. Let's just keep the friends of the community growing, and that's Robbie's channel right there. Oh, through the mail. Got it. I got it. So
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not an autograph collector or anything.
I know. I understand what he means now. Yeah, because people will send stuff out. Thank you, I'm sorry, I didn't know what that meant. People will send stuff out. I've watched the card collecting channels, and some athletes will sign and send it back. So I understand. So well, I don't know either, but that's a good question. So what are your thoughts on the AEW? That's a new wrestling alliance or something?
it is. It's called All In Wrestling. They are owned by Dave Little. Help me here. They're owned by the Khan Group. Is that correct?
That's right.
Are they like, remember the old what was the hardcore one I used to watch? You used to go to the shows, Mike.
The ECW.
ECW.
Is it similar to EC? Like, are they hardcore or just wrestling?
Just wrestling. I believe the Khan Group were I guess they're the owners of the Jaguars, I believe.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
The Jacksonville Jaguars. Now I know who you mean. The owner. Yes. Yes, that's his last name. I know. Okay. Wow, he's gotten to wrestling. Interesting.
Well, it's his son. Actually, the guy who's the driving force behind AEW is the son of the Jaguars owner. So,
was he a wrestler at a time?
I don't think he was a wrestler, but he's a huge fan.
Okay, because
the guy behind AEW is Cody Rhodes, the son of Dusty. Was in WWE, had a really stupid gimmick as Stardust.
That was awful. That was awful.
Goldust's younger brother, Stardust.
And
he hated the gimmick. He hated the gimmick. He hated what they were doing with him in WWE. He finally got fed up and left. Went to Japan and went to Ring of Honor and went to a lot of the independents. Became wildly popular, along with the Bullet Club.
Now, who's in the Bullet Club that I might know, out of curiosity?
several of the Bullet Club came to WWE. It used to be AJ Styles and Finn Balor and Gallows and Anderson. But the two guys that are left over from the Bullet Club are Nick and Matt Jackson, the Young Bucks. So the Young Bucks and Cody are the three guys who've been kind of the founding fathers of AEW. And they've signed some important talents. Chris Jericho is going to be in AEW. Kenny Omega, who's an international
Chris
superstar.
Jericho still wrestles?
Chris Jericho still wrestles.
Wow.
Part-time. He'll do a rock and roll tour with his band for 6 months, and then he'll come back and he'll wrestle for 6 months, and then he'll go back to the studio.
You know what? He was always entertaining too, Chris Jericho.
He still is.
Yeah.
And so Jericho and the Young Bucks and Cody have built this new wrestling federation. They did one show in Chicago that sold out. Their second show is going to be in May in Las Vegas. And then apparently there's a TV deal that are negotiating that they have
for a weekly show.
For a weekly show.
Oh, okay, hold on one second, guys. Here's the link for Mike Wise channel. Please check that channel out. I forgot to put that in there. Dave Gardner's in the chat. Hello, Dave. Check out that great. He's a big wrestling fan too. I bet you he just got back from the rink. This is a working night as he runs the hockey league. Remember, check out hockeytournaments.com, and here's the link for Dave Gardner's wonderful channel. And thank you for your patience, guys, when I interrupt to put the link.
I'm not sure about putting Reggie Jackson in a Red Sox uniform, but okay.
Yeah, you're a little bitter about that. I like it. I like it. It's worked out pretty good. It's fun though. That's a fun thing you can do with sports sims games, and that can be a conversation whenever. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. What number did Ted Williams wear for Boston?
Ted Williams wore. Oh my God! I just went brain dead.
Well, did he wear 9? Did he?
Yes, he wore 9. Ted Williams wore 9.
I guess Reggie couldn't wear 9 for Boston, huh?
No.
I guess he had to wear 44. I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I went brain dead when you said that for a second. I was like, oh my God. That's too funny. Sometimes that's what happens when you get old. You forget things. I'll tell you what. It's funny, Dave. You brought up what some of the goofy storylines when I used to watch wrestling with WWF, which changed to WWE. That the whole Dusty Rhodes Son thing was awful. They had a couple of really other bad ones, but that one really was mind-boggling to me because I think what got me back into wrestling after I stopped was ECW, just because it was so insane. Mm-hmm. And they were over the top, but they had some good shtick, The Dudley Boys, I loved them. Hardcore Holly, I think, came from there. Then they had another, maybe he didn't. They had another guy who'd used a kendo stick. Now I can't think of his name.
Sandman.
Yes, and he would come into the sound, enter the Sandman, and that was some good stuff there. And they did some nutty stuff. I think sometimes what turned me off from wrestling is some of and I like the goofy storylines, don't get me wrong. It's just some of the stuff is just stupid.
Well, Paul Heyman didn't care about royalties. He didn't care in a small bingo hall if he's going to play. He would let Taz use the War Machine music from Kiss. He would have, the music that Psychosis or Rey Mysterio used to use. I watched Rey when he was a 21-year-old wrestler in ECW when he wrestled Psychosis. So it was and they were using, Metallica type music, 2 different songs they were using. One of them was using Battery, I think. The other one was using something else. And it made it better. And now when I watch the shows on the network, the ECW shows, I turn them off because WWE will take their music and kill it so they don't have to play the royalties. And that takes away the entire show. I mean, I used to love, I think you're right, because I used to love those walk-ins with the music and stuff. And you're right, you have to pay royalties to that stuff. But yeah, good point.
So, Mike, do you think AEW is going to take off, or how do you project AEW over the next year, 2 years, 3 years?
AEW is going to be it's going to be up to the TV, I bet. I mean, yeah, we're planning on going to Double or Nothing, but it's sold out before we even blinked. So, I mean, we're only about 8 hours from Vegas. I thought, hey, maybe we can be able to do it. But now, as soon as they announced the tickets, they're on sale. They had their own season ticket thing that was almost sold out, and then when they put them on release, it's sold out the rest of the show. So, and that's going to be at the Mandalay, I think. So that should be a really good show. And once that show's over, I guess, yeah, they're talking about a major network grabbing them for a weekly show. So WWE does go to Fox starting in October, I believe it is. So we'll see.
Fox Network? Yeah,
Fox Network. WWE has signed a deal to go.
Wow.
Actually major network for wrestling. So they're going to use, I guess, Fox and Fox One, and also Fox itself too.
Rob explanation point, and first Danny in the chat, he says he's excited about the AEW. Rob says if AEW gets on TBS, I predict in 24 months WWE will be second fiddle. Well, I'll tell you, I think people, it's not a bad point there, because I'm just going to go back to when the WCW started beating out the WWF then, right? They just started putting wrestlers on, and what they did that was unique, at least from my perspective when I watched wrestling, and maybe you guys will agree, disagree. Sometimes you couldn't predict the matches in WCW. You know, every once in a while, there'd be this weird thing that would happen. You're like, well, I'm not saying in major matches, but, you know, I'll tell you one of the funnest things, you know, when you have a good organization or a good program. Do you remember did you guys used to watch their Saturday shows, the WCW Saturday shows? It was It was like really old school type wrestling, but it was so entertaining. I actually looked for, I'm like, you know, because they had their big show on Mondays, just like WWF, but that Saturday show was so much fun, you know, and this is for the TV tag team champ or the TV title, you know, it's just all the goofy stuff they used to do. And I remember Disco Inferno, right? They took this guy who was just cannon fodder. They made him into Disco Inferno, right? And he became popular on Saturdays. People wanted to watch him wrestle on Saturdays. And they actually built him up into something that people wanted to see. And we have Sam's Tangled Web in the chat. How are you doing, my friend? Another wonderful channel, a comic book channel. Please check him out, as he says, Jello, Alan, friends. But yeah, and the
WTBS every Saturday night at 6:05. Yep,
because they always had
on the Superstation.
And it was a lot of fun. And the other, I think,
because cable TV was new, and national superstations were new, and WCW put WTBS on the map.
Yeah, because I had never seen those. Again, the only thing I remembered that was different wrestling, we had a independent channel called Channel 20, which was out of Connecticut somewhere, right? And they gave us I think it was called Southwest Championship Wrestling, and that's when I saw the Von Erichs, and I think that's the first time I actually saw Ric Flair was in that. They used to do pay-per-views, or I don't know if they were pay-per-views, but their big matches would come from Dallas, the Cowboy Stadium. And I'll never forget that, you know, join us next week as we show you what happened in the scaffolding match. You know, they're 30 feet up in the air, and those guys are clinging for dear life on the scaffolding. You know, they're sitting down on the scaffolding, pounding away on each other. I was like, well, it's not what I thought, but it was still kind of fun. But yeah, I think I'd like to see someone, because, you know, Vince bought up all the organizations, and we just put Sam's Tangled Web's channel link in the chat. Please check it out and subscribe. And the other fun thing that WCW did, do you guys remember when they were at war with the WWF on the Monday night shows, and they would go live and they would tell you who won on the WWF show?
Wars.
Yes, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was too funny. I remember when they told you, I think it was Mick Foley when he won the title, because it was taped.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome. I thought that was better than wrestling. I wanted to see what WCW was going to do to infuriate WWF. It was just so funny. And they had what was it? And they came up with the NWO. They just came up with a lot of things. I know they've done it throughout wrestling, you know, but they caught wrestling at the right time, because I think people are getting sick of everything being over the top, stupid shtick that the WWF was going through. WWF lost a lot of wrestlers again to money, because Ted Turner doled out a lot of money. But sometimes you can go overboard with the shtick. I just, or
Yeah, and that's
stupid-
exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Because the WWE stuff got so stupid and so silly, and WCW came in and they brought the edge back to wrestling, the hard edge, the raw angst of it. When the NWO came in, I will never forget one of my favorite TV broadcasts in wrestling ever was when the NWO came in, took over the show, and just beat the snot out of everybody in WCW. They threw Kevin Nash picks up Rey Mysterio like a dart and throws him into the side of the trailer. And Rey Mysterio is out cold. And they're beating everybody with ball bats. People called the cops thinking that this was truly an assault. When, Hall and Nash and their crew came in and beat the guys up with bats. They didn't have any wrestling matches on the whole night. It was all just this big event of the invasion of the outsiders, Hall and Nash and that group. And that was, really when WCW took over the Monday Night Wars and held on to that for a good 2 years until WWE came back with the Attitude Era and Rock and Austin. Go ahead. I just want to
interrupt for a second because we're having a little technical difficulties. Mike, can you say something? Because somehow I want to. Yeah, no, I know, but it's not switching. So I did something. ID just brought it up. I don't know how to get rid of that. Like now it's just stuck on Dave, which is fine. Dave's a handsome fella. It's supposed to, when everyone talks, you're supposed to go to the big screen, and that's not happening. So Dave, if I lose you, you know what, Dave? Can you leave and come back in? Because I think that'll solve it. I think I did, if you don't mind. I hate to do that, but I don't know how else to do this.
Yeah.
Because when I tried to do something with Stratomac Deller one time, I banned him from the channel by accident. So I don't want that. Okay, Mike, talk now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay, so now that's working good. Thank you, ID. Remember to check out ID Gesture. I'm going to put that channel link in the chat. Must subscribe. So Dave's going to come back with us. All he has to do is click on the thing. What happened was when you were having that conversation, Mike, I muted your mic. And now I did something and it wouldn't. Okay, Dave, can you talk, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it works now. Beautiful. Thank you, ID. That's the only way I know how to fix it. I have to keep it simple, stupid for myself. So I'm sorry, Dave, we had to do that. So continue your thought.
I was just saying that the NWO came over so big and they dominated the ratings for 2 years. And that's when WWE got back on the shtick and they came back with the Attitude Era. And The Rock came in and Stone Cold Steve Austin came in and they went from being cartoons to being badass again. And that's
great point,
WWE
Dave.
got good again.
Yes, because now that you said that, and I just put ID Gestures chat in the link. Please subscribe to that if you haven't. You should. That's funny you bring that up because that's when I got back into wrestling after where I started watching the WWF again, or whatever the hell they're called now, WWE, because The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, was so good at his shtick.
Yeah.
And I read his biography, and then they did it on A&E when they did a bunch of wrestler stuff. He came up as a baby face, and it didn't work. And then they told him, go on the smaller tours that Vince kind of had his hands in and do your own thing, and we'll see how it goes. And he came back, and it was brilliant. I mean, I remember when Bruno Sammartino's kid came up, and they just tried to force feed Bruno Sammartino's kid as this is the next Bruno. Just let it happen. It's either going to happen or not, And they kind of tried to do that with The Rock before he was The Rock, because that's Rocky Johnson's son, Chief Peter Maiva's grandson. But his shtick was the best. I mean, him and Stone Cold, and I'm not a big Stone Cold Steve Austin guy, but the shtick together, and then they had him against the Ultimate Evil. It was a good, it was almost like the Good, the Bad, the Ugly, where is there a true good guy in the Good, the Bad, the Ugly? No, but there's guys you like, right? And there's a guy you really hate. And, when they had was it The Undertaker was the old, remember he kidnapped Stephanie? Again, it's goofy shtick, but that worked for me. I love that crap. I tuned in every week to watch that. So yeah, that's a great point, Dave. Because what did you say? Cartoon? Did you say cartoon? They stopped because that's when it sucked. Where it was just what they all had these. You don't always need the goofy get-ups. It works for some people, And it's good to have some of those type of wrestlers, in my opinion. But when you have all those type of wrestlers, you hit it right out of the ballpark. Cartoon characters. They were over the top cartoon characters. So that's very interesting. Now, because we're going to stay on for a little bit. And again, thank you everyone for joining us. As these are Good night, Bobby Cantillano. Wonderful,
Good night, Bobby.
wonderful
Bobby.
friend of the community. There's a couple of wrestling games that I've watched you guys play, and I've been lucky enough because someone gifted me one. I'm not going to say who, but thank you, Mike. There's the one that Mike plays, and then there's one which is a basically card and dice, but it's on the PC, which is really cool. And I hope you get back to that, Mike, because that's a lot of fun listening to you announce that. I love everything you do. I love the wrestling. I love the bowling is outstanding, but we're talking wrestling. And then Dave, you have that tabletop. It's a beautiful game, and I watched Rob play a bit of it, and you've brought it up. And again, I don't know the name of the game, but can you first, Mike? Can you talk about the PC game that I've seen you play and that you were kind enough to gift me?
It was called it's called Pro Wrestling Superstar. The game originated from the old Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazines, actually, because I used to play it the first way as an actual card and dice game. You actually have the cards in front of you, almost like Dave's Legends of Wrestling game. And then somehow, when I got to the new Millennium 2000s, I ran across this guy who I've talked to before, made the computer version, a computer dice version of the tabletop game, and it's really cool. I mean, each guy is represented by a card. If you don't like the card, you can go in there and edit it and make your own stuff and make your own thing. And I was able to finagle some of it, make my own matches on there. So you can do a lot with it. And there's also going to be a brand new version, almost like a new Windows 10 version coming out, hopefully in the next year or so. So he's working on it slowly but surely.
Oh, well, it's a lot of fun. Just again, I don't need the visual. The visuals are nice. I do that with the Fire Pro Wrestling, which is kind of fun. I do my goofy thing with that. But the card and dice thing is really, and I'm making you guys wrestlers, by the way. I'm working on a lot of wrestlers. I'm making more FOC members, and we're basically like the NWO. We kick the crap out of everyone and we cheat, but people like us because we donate to charity and we're nice to kids and we pet dogs and we give people ice cream. Other than that, in the ring, we're badasses. So, and we get suspended. I come up with all the goofy storylines. It's kind of fun. But what I did some thank you. And the game's fun. I've done like Chief J Strong, but just all these great names I remembered nostalgia wise as a kid. Now, I'll tell you, I give hats off to Mike, because he said, Al, what I do in a match is, because Andre the Giant's not going to get picked up and slammed. But unfortunately, on some of these cards, they just have that. He goes, just turn, like if you're doing a thing just in your own mind, or if you're calling it, like if I ever do that, but I leave that to Mike because he's so good at it. But I might do it. I know it's so much fun. Just say it's a drop kick. You know what I mean? Just use your logic with it. And you can change the cards. I'm just not that good at that. You know what I mean? I don't want to, because Mike has changed I believe you've changed some of the cards when you do certain matches, or you call. Yeah. Yeah. Because you know what I'm saying, Dave. Who's the only guy to slam Andre or pick up Andre the Giant?
It happened more than once, but Hulk Hogan is
that's the one I remember.
One.
Yeah. But it's just and it's just a lot of fun. So much nostalgia, especially when I actually did matches from the Springfield Civic Center. Offline. I typed in the Springfield Civic Center after Mike does. This is so cool. And Dave, tell us about that. And thank you, Mike. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tell us about the card and dice, the tabletop wrestling game. It's a beautiful game.
Yeah, it's called Legends of Wrestling. And it's created by a guy by the name of Tom Felsinger, who I met at a game convention. I met him at Origins Game Convention in Columbus back in 05 or 04. In 05, he showed up again, and he had Hacksaw Jim Duggan with him. And so basically, Tom is a Stratomatic player. And so he designed, basically, he calls this Strat Wrestling. And so it has a nice flow to it, very much like a Stratomatic game does. And I had played the paper version of Pro Wrestling Superstar in the past. I had played several other wrestling games. I created my own wrestling game at one point. But just the authenticity combined with the simplicity of Legends of Wrestling really was something I enjoyed. And there was also a great community of guys who plays. They have a message board. They have a
Dave,
yearly
did you say you created your
weekend
own wrestling
convention.
game?
I did, yeah. Back when I was in undergrad, I used the I had been a Dungeons and Dragons player.
Yep.
So I just took the Dungeons and Dragons style combat system and said, okay, instead of orcs and dwarves with swords and slings and arrows, I'm just going to make wrestlers with strength and power and
that's brilliant.
Dexterity and
you use that engine to create. That's awesome.
To create a wrestling game. And it was fun for a while, and I had a big pile of imaginary wrestlers on 3x5 cards, and I kept that up for a while. And then I checked out Pro Wrestling Superstar, and I checked out a few other card games. And when I met Tom and got to know his group in the game convention, that's when it really took hold for me, and that's been my preferred wrestling game ever since. I do own Pro Wrestling Superstar, both on the PC and on the paper version of it. I do have Face to the Mat, and sometimes I'll pull out the Face to the Mat book and just use that with my Legends game to help create storylines and help drive plot lines, because that's a neat little game. So
take
I'll
care,
play just
Danny.
about
Thanks
anything.
for stopping by. Well, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
It is so much fun with our good friend of the community, OG, the original Grognar. He does a wonderful job with Face to the Mat. That's play.com, right? And he does he has a women's league. It's a lot of fun. I love that stuff. It just it's all the names. Like he does a fictional one, but which is fine. But the names that and then the Robbie showed the cards off. You showed the cards off too, I believe. And you look at them and you're like, all the memories that come back for me. And we play these sports sims games, right? You do basketball and other things. Mike does baseball, football, and rest. It's the nostalgia, the memories it brings back. And just to sit there and go Chief Jay Strombo against, Superstar Billy Graham, and I'm sitting there going, I remember as a kid when Superstar Billy Graham, or was it Ken Patera, one of the two, Chief Jay Strombo had a tag partner, and he actually hurt his neck.
Billy White Wolf, yeah.
Yeah, and I think they actually banned they actually really did ban the flying neck breaker. When I think that was Ken Patera who did that, where he would put a guy in a neck breaker and he would spin him. And a few guys almost got hurt, and then Billy, I'm sorry, I forgot his name already, but he really did get hurt where he didn't really wrestle too much anymore, and they stopped the spinning neck breaker, which was it was a nasty finishing move though. When that got on there, you're like, oh boy. But yeah, it's just so much fun. The nostalgia with these games, and the wrestling is just awesome. So,
I think I will tag out here, Al, for a second. I don't want to make you spit your drink here, but before Dave says something, I'm sure he might have thrown in his 2 cents on what you're saying. First of all, the Ken Patera swinging full Nelson did such a good job on Billy White Wolf. It turned him into an Arab manager.
I didn't know that. Just
yeah. If you ever see Dave laughing, if you ever watch AWA wrestling, he ended up.
Was he Admiral Akbar?
No, he was a Chief Adnan LKC.
Oh, okay. They had an admiral, or no, not Admiral Akbar. That's Star Wars, but that's what I'm thinking of. That he had the full garb, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
that was Skandor Akbar out of Texas. Is who that was.
Okay. Wow. So that's that. Well,
and actually, when Sergeant Slaughter became a heel the second time, when he fought the Gulf War and he brought in General Adnan? That's him too. That was Billy White Wolf too. So,
but he didn't wrestle anymore though.
He didn't wrestle anymore, but he became an Arab manager who became very popular. So.
Chief Jay Strombo wasn't Native American. He was Italian. He was an Italian American. It was kind of a funny thing when you find that stuff out. I mean, again, it's all shtick. It's all show. So, but yeah, that's and let's just.
And I remember the rear admiral bringing up Ken Patera. I guess Honey Bunny's a friend of his or stuff like that. And shockingly, I read that he went to BYU, which kind of I like to know how he survived that school and got through it.
Well, he was an Olympic weightlifter also.
He was, and he's also he's a ornery son of a gun.
And
you ever hear him do his interviews and stuff like that? He just
some people are not. Some people are really that way, you know. And the other thing, Jack Patera, his brother, first head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. So that was. I remember him having some. Well, no, I remember superstar Billy Graham with Dusty Rhodes. They had a thing going. I used to love the cowbell matches when I was a kid. You see him every once in a while. And Ken Patera, I don't remember who his right. I mean, he was at one point he was a major bad guy, and then he kind of petered out. I saw him. You want to talk about funny? The first wrestling match I went to as a kid that my grandfather didn't take me to, wrestling was on the way down, right? The main event at the Springfield Civic Center was supposed to be Ken Patera and Rocky Johnson, which I was excited about. I liked Rocky Johnson, right? We get there, Rocky Johnson, they tell you, right, the match has been changed. It's Ken Patera against some guy off the street in, I swear to God, high-top sneakers, right? And, you know, the match lasts like 5 minutes. The kid, you know, they obviously had some kid in the back, right, who maybe was an extra or something, who had some wrestling ability. And he wrestled literally in sneakers. And we're sitting there going, you know, and this is before wrestling took off again with Hulk Hogan. And we bought like the cheapest tickets, and we walked down to as close as we could get. And finally, the guy goes, "Listen, that's as far as you could go." And you know, it worked out. We enjoyed watching the matches, but there you could count the people there. But then the next time we'd go back, the next show we went back to a year or so later, the wrestling had taken off again, right? And they did 4 Saturday shows in this one Saturday because Bobby Heenan kept changing his blazer. So every time he changed his blazer, we knew they're taping for another show. It was pretty funny. It's cool stuff like that.
Yeah. Patera had a famous angle with he became part of the Heenan family, and he teamed up with Big John Studd.
Oh yeah,
and they attacked Andre the Giant and cut his hair.
Okay, I kind of remember
shaved
that.
His head, and that, you know, because for a while Patera and Studd would walk around with this little plastic baggie full of Andre's hair. And they would taunt Andre with it until Andre, you know, of course, got his revenge.
I kind of remember that, yeah. The other things are. Do you remember the handicap matches they used to have, like Andre the Giant versus 3 horrible wrestlers, and he just those were fun. And remember he'd do the whole you push him back in the corner routine.
Yeah, he'd line them all up in the corner and he'd butt splash them all against the turnbuckle, and
now
as would be falling all over the place.
Do you guys remember Stevie King? Human cannon fodder, Stevie King.
Yeah, he actually wrestles on us. I get this. YouTube community. Hey, any friend could be on the friends of the community. So I go.
Take care, Mike. Why? Thank you for stopping by. Sorry about that, Mike.
So I subscribe to this YouTube channel called Pieces of Wrestling. He has over 5,000 subscribers, and he has this. He puts on these Madison Square Garden shows from the 1980s, 85, 86, and 81 and 82 sometimes. And Steve King's been on there a lot, and the Tony Colognes. And yeah, I remember seeing him a lot.
Do you remember? I'm just trying to think. You remember the Brooklyn Brawler?
Oh yeah, he was. Steve Lombardi. Yeah.
I'm just all these names are popping in my head now. It's just funny. It was good. I mean, it was happy times. I liked it. So. What were your? Oh, go ahead, Dave. I think it was Dave or Mike. Someone's going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say my favorite job guy was this short little pudgy black guy named Israel Mattia, completely bald. And he'd come out and he'd bounce around and he'd tie up with the other guy, and then he would accuse the guy of pulling his hair, and he was completely bald. But that was his stick. Every week he'd come out and where
they do the whole remember like that. Yeah, that was it was another one. Mr. Fuji and Professor Ternura Tanaka, I think it was. Or am I getting that mixed up with it? But they used to remember, they used to do the thing with the salt. Remember the thing with the salt? You know, and they would be wrestling. I'll never forget. Again, this is when I was a young kid, and just wrestling was so cool on Saturdays. They were wrestling Dominic DeNucci and SD Special Delivery Jones. It was a World Tag Team Championship match, and they were going to lose, right? And then they did the whole salt. Yeah, as John Taylor goes, salt in the eyes trick, and they beat them, and then they hurt SD Special Delivery Jones. Okay, and he couldn't wrestle next week, so it was Dominic DeNucci and a not fat Dino Bravo who would then wrestle and defeat Fuji and Toru Tanaka for the championship, who would then, how sad I remember this, would lose a couple of years later to the Lumberjacks, who were two of the biggest dudes I ever saw in my life. To me, they were the most fearsome tag team when I was a kid, until you saw the Road Warriors, which were, when I first saw the Road Warriors on, well, I think it was WCW, they were nuts. But the Lumberjacks were these two huge, and they had that finishing move. They'd whip you to the ropes, and bang, they hit you with the double hammer. Oh, yeah, that was great stuff. That was some good shit. You know what also annoyed me? We'd go out as kids after, and we go, why don't the good guys have managers who interfere? The only manager the good guys ever had was Arnold Skolin in the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I remember. The bad guy,
the golden boy.
The bad guys had the Wizard, right?
Yeah, Albano,
and Freddie Blassie.
Freddie Blassie, pencil head geek.
Yep, he was funny. Oh my God, good stuff. What are some of your favorite early memories of wrestling? When it doesn't like when you were young, when you first started watching wrestling, I guess. Because I'm more of a nostalgic guy. We've gone through the WrestleMania. Do you mind talking a little nostalgic wrestling before we, go off the air, or is that?
Well, yeah, my favorite nostalgia was Gordon Soley, and the Walter Cronkite kind of wrestling. He would be at that booth, and he was the voice of truth, and you listened to every word out of his mouth, and he had scientific names for every move, and he knew scientific names for every part of the human body, and he was just the greatest. The greatest guy ever. He could make any match look like
outstanding.
It was the seventh game of the World Series.
Now, Dave, did he do? Because the name's very familiar to me, but I want to say the first time he was not a WWF guy.
He was a Southern guy.
Southern. That's what I was just gonna say. Did he do the Southern wrestling? Because that's.
Yep.
I remember him on Saturday shows, and that voice was just, and because he did the interviews, and yeah, that was. I'll tell you the other thing. What makes wrestling when I watched it, and it does sometimes now. I don't watch it much at all, but when they had guys who sort of announced it like it was a sport, you know what I mean? Like you just said, you could announce the seventh game of the. That's what made it even more fun. So that's a really good one. That is a great one. So you picked I'm going to say an announcer. That is very a great one at that. What's one of yours, Mike?
Oh, again, I didn't pick up a lot of. I watch a lot of nostalgia now since I picked up wrestling when I was either a teenager or going through high school. Like it was in the 80s.
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
that's
yeah,
fine.
and that's kind of probably when you probably got around to it. I think, Al, too. And again, one of the big things I remember was the Eye of the Tiger and Hulkamania and stuff like that. And when he won the title from the Sheik and stuff like that. So yeah, that's one of the first things I remember watching. And or was it the title match on TV between Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas versus Samoans?
They were tag team champions, Rocky Johnson and Teddy Atlas. And Teddy Atlas had what was that? Remember how he used to pick that guy right up over the power? I don't know what it's called, but the power lift I used to call. And he'd get that guy.
Press slam.
Yes. Oh my Lord. And there's so many. Let me just. Can you guys stay for a little longer? Or,
oh, yeah, you're good.
Okay. So I mean, I'm just looking at all these names in the chat, and I have to get Martel Angaria, and then you have Baron von Raschke. Okay, I remember him. Greg the Hammer Valentine. These are Rob's bringing up some of these names. Here's one Rob brings up. I forgot. And this was one of my favorite shticks and groups. Kevin Sullivan had the Varsity Club. It was Kevin Sullivan, Mike Rotundo, Barry Windham, I think.
It wasn't Wyndham. It was
It was
Rick
one of the
Steiner
brothers. One of the because he wore the
Rick Steiner. Yeah.
Rick Steiner from Michigan, and then they brought in Steve Williams from Oklahoma.
Yes, and he had a beard, dark hair and a beard.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So yes, I do remember that.
Well,
that was.
If you really want to go back, Al, I mean, go watch video of Kevin Sullivan running David Little. Probably give me a smile. Go back and watch his voodoo,
I remember that too. I like that.
Prince of Darkness thing.
Yeah, he would have the dark cloak over his head and do all that. Yeah, I remember all that stuff. I loved all that stuff. Kevin Sullivan was very entertaining. I forgot about that stuff.
Not to mention a diehard Red Sox fan with his accent. My God, where is he from?
And then, do you remember? Here's one. Remember when they used to do in wrestling from Parts Unknown? From Parts Unknown, Moondog Spot, or I don't even. It's just then Baron Miguel Cicluna from the Isle of Malta. That was always a good one. Oh my God, so much fun.
Cactus Jack Manson from Truth or Consequences, New Mexico.
Who was the guy? He was a cowboy. He used to squash the apples. He had the claw. That was like, Blackjack. Was it Blackjack Mulligan? Remember, he used to come out with the apples and go, they're going to outlaw this whole because I can squash someone's head. And he'd come out with the apples and he'd squish them with his hand. Oh, God, was it Blackjack Mulligan? That was a good one.
Yeah, when he was in the WWF, it was Blackjack Mulligan, too.
Yeah. And then Terry Funk was nuts. They did some crazy. I watched it was, I don't know if it was the documentary with the one with Mankind and
Wrestling with Shadows, I believe it was.
Whatever, but they did Terry Funk. They did Jake the Snake, who had a messed up life. But that was really good to see some of that stuff. And when they went to Japan, the crazy stuff they pull over there, because the fans are all into that, the tax and all that stuff. Now, here's a cool thing, a funny story about wrestling, and I'll let you guys share whatever you want to share, and then we'll end up. All these names are awesome. Do you remember Muhammad Ali fought Inoki? They not fought, but you know what I mean. They had the shtick with Inoki, the wrestler. And on the same night, Chuck Wepner got in the ring with Andre the Giant. Now, this is one of the, so Chuck Wepner, if you ever see one of his biographies, and he's what the movie Rocky's based on. Sylvester Stallone was watching the fight from Cleveland, Ohio. Dave, you probably might, in 1975, I think it was. And he almost goes 15 rounds with Ali. He gets stopped in the 15th. And he was a collector for a bookie, and he did other things, Chuck Wepner. He was a big dude. You didn't want to meet him. He could be a very angry man in a dark alley. And if the fight was in an alley, you would probably take Chuck Wepner over a lot of people, but it's in the boxer. But he had, they put him in the ring with Andre the Giant, right? And he thinks he's going to go dance around, throw some jab. And he goes, does this guy know it's fake? Because Andre was taking it like really serious. They actually had to come in and stop it because Wepner again, Andre would have killed him if he got his hands on him. But Wepner started throwing punches because, hey, this guy's not, like he felt the power of Andre. I thought we're just supposed to dance around and move for a bit. And but that's one of the funniest stories because Wepner goes, I hit him as hard as I could. And the guy just went, and I was like, oh boy, because, but I think that was on the same night, Ali and Inoki. And Inoki, if you ever see that, he literally crab crawled the whole bout. Like he stayed on his back and tried to kick Ali in the legs all the time. That was one of those special weird attractions that they did with the boxing and wrestling in the mid 70s. But I remember watching it on a year later when they put it on TV, or something. Like you got to watch it, and it's crazy stuff. That's the stuff I remember.
Yeah, but you talked about
Was
Japan.
in Japan the Inoki?
They take their wrestling seriously.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, but they take their wrestling seriously in Japan, and there's a clip, at the risk of being graphic. Inoki fights this guy in Japan named the Great Antonio, and he's this big, fat, ugly, doofus-looking guy. And the Great Antonio is not taking the match seriously, and he's messing around, and he's not being professional. And Inoki just gets him down and beats the ever-loving snot out of this guy, kicks him in the head repeatedly. They had to pull guys off of him to literally save this guy from getting his skull caved in.
Wow. So he was pissed that he was making
Inoki was the,
so he was
Inoki
pissed that he was making a mockery of the match.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. And Inoki just
Yeah, you're
unloaded
right.
on
They
this
take
dude.
it. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dave.
And-
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it got ugly in a hurry.
I could see. You know what? Anthony from Bleacher Bums Gaming, great channel. Check it out. He says Stallone based the scene with Hogan on the event with Wepner and Andre the Giant. That's pretty funny. That remember when Hulk Hogan and Stallone they're doing the charity. What the hell was Hulk Hogan called in that movie in Rocky?
Thunder Lips.
In Rocky 3, I think it was, right? And so he's saying
Thunder Lips.
Yeah, he based it because that Chuck Wepner thing was. I mean, to hear Wepner talk about it and his, we thought we're going in there for this kind of goofy thing, and the guy's really coming at me. And if you can find the clips, they literally stop it because Andre was going to kill him. Like, oh my God, and they're like, we got to, people are going to. Wepner's corner's like, we got to grab something to hit this guy with because Andre's a big dude. I mean, he could hurt people if he wanted to. But that's funny. So that guy was making a mockery of the match, and Inoki took it. Well, that's their profession, right, Dave? You're making a mockery of something that they're.
Yeah, I mean, Inoki was the promoter, and he was the guy in charge, and he was the son of a gun you did not mess with.
He was, What's the biggest? Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, there was this match that's filtering around between Lex Luger and Bruiser Brody in a cage, I believe. And I guess Luger thought he can go in there with Brody and kind of mess around with him, I guess. And Brody ended up coming out and shooting with him and almost destroyed Luger in the cage. I believe Dave could probably agree with that if he's heard that same story too.
Yeah.
So that was Bruiser Brody who did that?
Yeah, and Lex Luger. Yeah.
So it was another unique story. Killer Kowalski. Oh, I think this was on A&E or the History of Wrestling or the History Channel. One of the two, a long time where I saw these. And I wish they would show them again, or if you can find them on YouTube. The History of Wrestling was another unique one, where he's talking about you usually wrestled your friends, like the guys you trust, like the guys you wrestled over and over again. At least that's the way he was explaining it, because you knew each other's moves, you protected each. For certain moves you knew how to do them that you weren't gonna. He had to wrestle. I can't think of the guy he had to wrestle. I'm going to say Yukon Jack. That's probably not the right name. But it's a guy he really hated, and the guy hated him. I mean, like, they actually got in a fight sometimes, and they had never wrestled because they didn't like each other. But the regional promotional, how you guys know, you remember how it used to be in regions before everyone had a regional promotional thing? Well, they wanted that. They go, the people want this match. And so Killer Kowalski, I wish I could remember the guy who was wrestling, but I don't. He says, and this is when they still didn't admit it was fake. Like even when he's doing the interview, he's an old guy now. And he said, they might have told us what we were supposed to do, but they never told me how hard I had to hit, I couldn't hit him. And he goes, I knocked out a few of his teeth, because they really hated each other and they didn't want to wrestle each other. The other unique thing I found out about wrestling was the concept of, at least from the stories I heard, you usually wrestled like I just said, the guys you trusted, that you weren't going to get hurt, and you did the dance with them, I think was a terminology or something. That was your partner, your dance partner, where you'd go from town to town and you'd wrestle them over and over again until it kind of wore out. And the other thing that was kind of fun was when they started telling, like when you put the guy in a headlock, and now when you watch, like, if I look at the old matches, I can pick up where they're talking to each other, sort of. And they would say, you're trying to plan what you're going to do and stuff. You don't see many headlocks and stuff like that. It's more fast paced. So But I don't know. I used to kind of like the goofiness of it. So
Well, you and I were talking offline one day, Al, about hitting people with chairs, and I believe it was, or something like that.
yeah,
And I guess, the same thing you were talking about, talking with another, the whole, how they used to bleed and stuff, the whole
Yep.
blading and stuff.
yep.
And some guys aren't as good at it as some of them were. You'll throw the guy outside the ring, and you'll see a guy rubbing his head, and he comes out with the bloody hair.
Yeah, there's some guys who did it. I mean, you've seen matches where they're missing a mile away, but yet when I go to the Civic Center and we had decent seats, you can see they're laying up a bit, but it's listen. We all know they've admitted it's fake, but you still have to be a great athlete and you're an entertainer, and those guys take a beating. And I'll tell you, the one of the ones I remember, because I remember watching that match, and then later on you find out, again, watching one of those history things, or it's a documentary on Bret the Hitman. Yeah, Bret the Hitman had the long black hair, right? The Hart Foundation.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
And he wrestled Goldberg. I don't know if it was a tag match or a single match. Maybe it was and you remember Goldberg had like that super kick thing? And I remember going, holy shit, I think he really kicked him, because his head, I mean, you just heard the pop. And
that ended his career.
Yeah, yes. But I remember watching that going, I think he really, because my friends used to get the pay-per-views and we'd all go over, like Dave says we'd go watch him. And we went and go, I think he really kicked him. I think he really hit him. Like he didn't, oh man. So I still remember that sound. It's like when a boxer gets hit clean. It's just like, I know that guy really got hit. That's not where they pulled up, or they put the what's one of the tricks? You put the microphone under the mat, to make everything sound louder.
Yeah.
So did that?
Well, that was a bit. That was a botch. That was a mistake by Goldberg. I don't know if it was, what the intent was behind it, but Goldberg fucked up and he concussed Bret Hart, and that was the end of Bret's career.
Was done after that, because Bret Hart said he didn't really remember anything, and he continued. The match went a little while longer, which was mind-numbing to me. That I think Goldberg should just try to pin him. I guess he was trying to stick to whatever the writing was, but he was out. He got up. I mean, I think you can find that the match doesn't end right there. I think he actually gets up. They wrestle a little more, and because he said he didn't remember anything. Now, you're saying he was, because I don't remember him wrestling much after that, and I was still kind of watching wrestling. So, yeah,
it almost killed him, because he had a couple injuries because of the concussion syndrome and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
And it kind of explains the way he is right now when you see him too.
Oh, geez, that's too bad. That's one of those. You have memories of things. I'll never forget that, because, like I said, he hit him. It's just a certain sound when you hear that, and it's like, whoa, he hit him. So, we're gonna bring it. We're gonna go to about 12:38 more minutes. What else would you guys? What's just whatever wrestling or any memories of. This is so much fun. I hope I didn't. I got really. See, I'm getting excited because all these thoughts pop through my head now about wrestling. Just what was a match you always wanted to see that maybe never, or like, even if like a match throughout history, whenever maybe it's not, they didn't wrestle at the same time, or a match you would have loved to have seen that never took place because it was different federations or regional territories at the time.
Well, I'll jump on that. This is kind of a what if.
Yeah.
One of my other favorites of all time was Sting. I don't know if you guys remember Sting.
Oh, I remember Sting. Yeah.
Particularly Sting
which version did you like, or did you like both?
And this is I liked the version that I call Happy Sting.
Oh, the blonde,
the face paint and the neon tights, and the spike blonde hair, and the hooping and hollering, and he was tremendous. He could have been the biggest thing ever, but then he tore up his knee jumping onto a cage in the middle of a cage match.
Classic champions,
ruptured his patella tendon, and that took away a lot of his athleticism and mobility. And then that's when he came back as the Dark Sting, the Crow with the black and the gimmick and stuff,
the baseball bat.
So my ultimate what if is, what if the young athletic Sting would have survived into a longer career, he could have been John Cena. He had that much charisma and that much athletic ability, and had he gone to WWE in his prime and worked for the publicity machine that is Vince McMahon, he could have been as big as John Cena. And I would have loved to see him battle The Undertaker and a lot of those guys at his athletic peak, which sadly ended too soon.
I remembered him hurting his knee because they actually tried to work that where he came into the ring. I actually just saw that again because I was watching old matches on YouTube where he was on the crutches and they had the thing.
Yeah.
I think that was the same time period. And before we move on, Rob exclamation point says Piper versus Valentine dog collar match, perhaps the best match ever. Well, that's another question we'll go before we leave. Best match. So that Sting, it's not really just if he had not evolved. That's not there. If he had stayed healthy, that's your what if. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Mike, do you have one, Mike? Two wrestlers or something you would have liked to have seen?
I wish I would have seen. I guess one of my favorite guys was Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and I wish I had a chance of seeing him in the States a little more. But he always was one about making money and performing more in Japan.
He got paid a lot more in Japan.
He did, and you've seen a lot of his matches. He worked a lot what's called a stiffer style for All Japan too, and I always loved him there. I saw him a little bit in ECW for a little while, and it was really cool as hell. But he was coming to the end of his end run then too. So, but I also saw that he was pretty cool too. If I could have seen him.
Okay. All right. So now another good one. Then we'll leave after that. We'll say our goodbyes, and I'm going to shout out some channels before we go. Rob exclamation point brings up Piper versus Valentine as he says one of the best matches ever. One of the thing I would have liked to have seen. I would have Bruno Sammartino versus Hulk Hogan. To me, that would have been intriguing. However they wrote the script, that would have been intriguing to me. Best matches ever. For wrestling, for atmosphere, I'd have to say Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik at Madison Square Garden, just because that place was rocking and rolling. I remember watching that. But one of my favorite matches, it was Jimmy Superfly Snuka and Don Morocco, and it was a cage match. And this was on replay because they didn't show, they showed it, but I didn't know who won anyway. But and Snuka went off. I'm pretty sure it was Morocco. He went off the top of and he splattered him. You know what I mean? And I was like, whoa. Now I've seen replays of the when Mick Foley gets thrown up, the Hell in a Cell match and stuff like that. And that's great. But that one, and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and against anybody, because those were usually fun matches. Ricky the Dragon always he always put up good matches. But I think
my favorite match ever is Steamboat and Savage at WrestleMania 3.
Yep, that's a good one. That was another, that just slipped my mind. I thought of him right now. I don't think that's right up there with Ric Flair. I don't think I ever saw him in a bad match because he was mobile, he was strong. Yeah. But the one that sticks in my mind is Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and I'm almost positive it was Don Morocco, because they had that rivalry for a while. So
that was October of 1983. Again, I was just watching that. I was watching that recently too, and how that match ended was Snuka was beating the living tar out of Morocco, and the place was going absolutely nuts, and Santana. Snuka was about to win the Intercontinental title. He had Morocco beat, and Snuka gave him this thundering headbutt, and it took Morocco across the ring, and he headbutt him basically outside the door. And because the WWF had the old cage match rules,
and he was out of the cage first. Yeah. You're right.
And Snuka was so incensed, he brought him back in the ring,
and he splashed him, right?
And he splashed him, and that basically. Yeah. But if you go in one of those, if you go back in time things, he wrestled Bob Backlund first in a cage and missed.
Ooh.
He missed the leap from the top of the cage, Backlund crawled out and won the feud against Snuka. Snuka goes face with Buddy Rogers as his manager. All of a sudden, become the hottest wrestler.
He was very hot at that time.
Very hot, and then he wrestled Morocco as the ultimate heel, and all of a sudden he hit the splash off the top rope.
And Anthony just brought that up. Backlund versus, I forgot about that. I forgot about that. Backlund to me was a boring champion. That's why he didn't hold it. I mean, they had him beat superstar Billy Graham because they didn't want him to hold the title too long. And no. Yeah, because then the Iron Sheik, right? Wasn't it the Iron Sheik who beat Backlund? I'm trying to go through my head now.
Yeah, the Sheik beat Backlund.
So,
and there's talk about how that was that was set up, and because Backlund wouldn't give up the belt, so they actually the whole throw in the towel bit, but you can look at it either way.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because they wanted, this is another unique story, and then we'll say our goodbyes because I could talk wrestling forever, the old school. They wanted Backlund to turn heel. He didn't want to turn heel because he had all the wrestling things. I guess that was one of the storylines. Yeah. And then it's funny when he comes back, he turned to get back into it. He turned heel. I mean, I think it was years later. But yeah, I think that's one of the things I remember about finding out years later. Backlund had like an 8-year run. It was just boring. Bob Backlund was a boring champion to me. That's just me, though. That's boring. So favorite champion in any. We'll end with this, and then we'll say favorite champion in any organization.
Ric Flair.
Ric Flair.
If my turn, yes. Probably my favorite. We were talking about matches earlier. Probably my favorite match was the 2 out of 3 falls match that was set It was up against WrestleMania 4, and WTBS had a live Clash of the Champions, and it was Steamboat versus Flair for the NWA title. With Steamboat still as a champion, the match went 2 out of 3 falls and almost went a full hour.
That's incredible to think about.
And it was an absolute classic. It was one of the best matches I've ever seen.
Ric Flair was always Ric Flair was entertaining. So that's pretty cool how we all came up with. He was entertaining to the end. He was entertaining. Bleacher Bums Gaming says Ric Flair. Nick Bockwinkel, he says also. D. Scott Howard says Backlund was the last pre-circus champion. True. But even the pre-circus, like superstar Billy Graham, even though you didn't like him or you liked him, but most people didn't because he was a heel. At least it was entertaining. San Martino had his entertainment value. It just, I don't know, Backlund, and he did hold the title a long time. It's just, Dr. David Schultz says Rob. Oh, was he the guy who hit what's his face?
John Stossel, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he was mean. So, anyway, well, I like to say a few shout-outs. Thank you to Dave Little. Please check out his channel and subscribe. Thank you to...
Well, thanks for the invite.
It was a last-second thing. I saw Mike said he could come on Sports Time Machine. And I know Mike likes wrestling, and I know you like wrestling. And I like wrestling. I don't follow it like I used to, but I like listening to you guys talk about it. And I know we could talk some old school wrestling, and hopefully we can do this again if you'd like. It's up to you guys.
Absolutely.
It was a lot of fun. And I get giddy and I start asking a lot of like, oh, what do you like this? What do you like that? Because I want to have everyone's opinion. So it was a lot of fun. Also check out all the content creators in the chat and subscribe. Again, subscriber drive. Let's get everyone to 1,000 and beyond. And we have a few other shout outs real quick, and I wrote them down and now I can't find it, and that sucks. So it's not going to be real quick. So Mr. Utah Mike, you go first. Tell us what's coming up on your channel, and then Dave will go, and then I'll do my final little thing, and we'll say thank you to everyone in the chat.
Well, I'm just still kind of working on my tournament a little bit. And like I said in the beginning, I'm going to be running the Louisiana reverse. I'm going to running the Ron Guidry taking the Andy Pettit starts from 1995 to his end of his tenure in New York, and trying to see if he would have had a better career than Andy Pettit would have had, using Guidry's cards back in the 70s and 80s. So I'm gonna check. I'm gonna see if I can do that. I know a lot of people like to do that, play with different starts and play different careers. So
that's a really fun. That's a fun concept.
And I can still do the as played lineups and just basically just switch
the pitcher.
Guidry, just switch Guidry for Pettit starts and autoplay everything else. So I can see if I can do that. It wouldn't take me that long. I don't think it's like 30 plus starts a year. So
I think that's awesome. I think that is awesome. So thank you very much, Mike. And again, that's Sports Time Machine. Please check it out and subscribe. Wonderful, wonderful channel. Now to our good friend Dave Little. And Dave, do you have a basketball game coming up on Friday? And what's going on with your channel?
Yeah, basketball on Friday nights until I get through this this league I'm doing right now. I did one Stratomatic baseball on a Saturday morning as part of a retro league I'm doing. But the new thing that's going to be happening in my channel is that I finally broke down and ordered a webcam for my tabletop.
Cool.
So I'm going to start doing some tabletop stuff, including some Legends of Wrestling. And later this summer, I'm going to start a History Maker baseball project, and I'll introduce that. It's going to be the greatest team I've ever seen, and it's going to be 32 baseball teams, all of whom I have seen live.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And I'm in the process of making the History Maker card sets for them now. And once I have that done, I'll be doing that.
You're gonna rate all the teams themselves.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How long do you think that will take you, out of curiosity?
The ratings?
Yes, sir.
It takes a couple hours per team.
Okay. And you're doing 32 teams. I look forward to that, my friend.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, in 2015, I think it was, I completed the circuit. I've seen every major league team in their home stadium now.
That's awesome.
So, and those are the teams that I'm going to be playing with, all the way back to the '88 Phillies, and most recently the 2015 Giants. I think were the last ones that
you saw live. So this is literally you saw live. I got you. Yeah. You actually were in. I understand. Oh, that's really cool.
In the stadium. So yeah, best team I've ever seen.
That's awesome. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Some quick shout outs. A good friend of the channel, Rise O, who on our first subscriber drive subscribed to everyone in the chat. And he is not a content creator just yet, but a great, that's Rise O, R-I-E-S space capital O. Thank you very much. Great friend of the community. Shout out to Alpine Comic Books. Check out his channel. He does some comics. He also does some sports sims. That's Alpine Comic Books. And always Nat King Curry the Fourth. Thank you very much. And again, this is a subscriber drive. We talked a lot of wrestling because it was a lot of fun. Everyone in the chat, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate Mike and Dave taking time out to jump on the channel. And it was a lot of fun. I'd like to do it again. I can talk wrestling. You can tell me what you want to talk about. I'll just listen and I'll read stuff out in the chat. I'm sorry if I interrupt. Sometimes I'm trying to read the stuff in the chat, and sometimes things just pop in my head because you guys know wrestling. I want to talk to you about it. But you guys are great sports. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Health and happiness. Remember, subscribe to those people in our community. Share it. Even if it's not sports sims or card collecting, if it's TV entertainment, subscribe to one another. Share the content, and your channels will grow and grow quickly. And that's how we all get there and work together as a community. So thank you very much. We'll be back hopefully tomorrow night. I don't know with who, maybe just me, or maybe with these two fine gentlemen again, or somebody else. Maybe it's Anthony from Bleacher Bums Gaming. Maybe we talk a little boxing tomorrow night. I don't know. So health and happiness. Till next time. Take care. Bye-bye. God bless.
Watch for that clothesline.
Oh, I like that one. Watch for that clothesline. That's a great one. And you know what? You know what's coming, folks. Peace.